Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm Holly, and I'm with Military Home Base, and I have a special guest today, Jennifer Mullen. The reason why we are going live is it's called Countdown to Payday, and we know that many are affected by the government shutdown. However, it affects us personally because over 41,000 Coast Guards and their families are affected by this shutdown, and that means something to each one of us. And we have a great friend. Her name was Stacy, and she talked about be the light. And we're like, let's be the light. Let's bring awareness of how each of the communities in different areas, because the Coast Guard is spread out so far. A lot of people don't know that. Let's bring some facts about the Coast Guard that people don't know. And let's talk about what these fabulous spouses are doing in their area to help their community. So I'm going to pass it on over to you, Jen. Tell me everything so we can share today.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm Jen Mullen. I'm actually the Armed Forces Insurance Coast Guard Spouse of the Year of 2016. And I also am the owner of Ever Anchored, which is a company creating products for military families. So one of the things that people don't realize the most about the Coast Guard is what they actually do on a day-to-day basis. Everyone thinks, oh, there's just search and rescue. And that's really only one part of all of the facets. So I'm going to list them off for you guys, but I'll go more into it. But outside of search and rescue, and that's what you picture, like the helicopters and, helping them in the boats, but it's also drug interdictions. It's international waters, so we call that maritime law enforcement. Or aids to navigation is another item, or ice breaking, going up to Alaska and making sure that we can get our foods and services up there and they can travel. Also environment protection, so like oil spills, or making sure that folks that are on the water are actually treating our environment correctly. And then port security and military readiness. So for example, going in, my husband was stationed in Staten Island a while ago, and he would ensure that the ships coming in, the barges, were safe, that they weren't violating anything, and also just making sure that it was passing through correctly. So they had a bunch of checks. So there's a large amount of items that the Coast Guard does to really help the country. So protecting the borders, but also to ensure that they're doing the items that we need to keep the U.S. safe on different facets across the board. There's currently about 42,000 Coast Guard members active duty, and that does not include reservists or even our auxiliary personnel, and that's about 8,000 to about 35,000, depending on which one. And they go right along with us. So if we need them, they'll come with our active duty members. So there's, people tend to think, oh, it's only in time of war, but the Coast Guard is ongoing military readiness and ensuring that the U.S. is safe. So when it comes to what we're currently happening, we're still doing that, right? So my husband, as well as the other folks, active duty members, are still completing the mission at hand. So we're making sure that everything is still safe, and we're making sure that everyone else is not forgotten. So search and rescue missions are still happening, drug interdictions and missions, and even on border. So those are some of the little high-level items that the Coast Guard does on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, because life continues.
Yes.
So unfortunately, like for some people, I always say, well, if someone told you that tomorrow you weren't going to get paid, would you go to work?
Right.
No. However, with our service members, because I consider you service members. I know that's a big topic sometimes, but you're service members, that they don't have that option.
Right.
They don't get paid. They still have to do their duty.
Right.
They still have to serve our country, and but they're not getting paid.
Right.
Nothing. No money.
Right.
So my other question is, in your area right now, which, is South Carolina.
Yep.
It has my heart because everybody knows I'm from South Carolina. If you can't tell already by this accent, what are you doing in your area? What are you doing? What are other people doing in your area?
Yeah, so we have done a lot and are getting things ramped up, especially since we didn't receive pay this week. So we are working with the Low Country Coast Guard CPOA, the Chiefs Petty Officer Association, and that group actually helps ongoing throughout the year, not just in times like this, but they are ones to make sure that we have our active duty members taken care of. So we're working with them and the commands to get, we're working with CPOA to make sure that we can have some food pantries set up over the weekend. Additionally, I've worked with the USO regional contact, and they have set up through Texas Roadhouse here in the Charleston area for free meals for a week. And then we're also just trying to get the information out as well. So additional food pantries, not just the Coast Guard ones, but just making sure that the families have the support that they need and the information they need to maintain their life.
So I had the flyer for the USO. Thank you, USO. They're another.
Yeah, thank you.
Love them, right?
Yes.
And that's awesome. They're giving food for a whole week. I mean,
Right.
You can't ask for anything better. So we had that flyer. We'll get that up onto our website and start circulating that around our social media. And as soon as those pantries are set up, if you give us the area, we will post those out. So I know for me, I will be sharing this with all of my family and friends. So just get ready. South Carolina is coming to you.
For you. Yeah, we're ready.
Ready. And so as soon as that's ready, then we'll have that information of how and where those drop-off locations are. How does this affect you personally? Or if it's not affecting you personally, do you know anyone that's affecting personally so that we can talk about that?
Yeah, it is affecting us. From my perspective, we're going on lockdown. So the best way that I can explain it is, imagine that you are told quick notice that you need to spend $3,000, $4,000. And you know that it's there, but you can't really touch it. So we're going to put it aside. So what do? Right? You reduce your spending. You don't go out to eat. You do everything in-house or at friends' houses. You don't go out to play, right? You just go outside the yard. You don't go do fun things for your kids. So it's really on like lockdown mode. So that's a lot of what is happening, at least for me, is that we're on bare bones. So the kids are aware of it, which is a difficult conversation to have. But we're trying to be creative. We're going outside more. We're just really trying to make sure that we're all focusing on what are the basic needs that we need to survive this for how long this is. And then, reaching out to get the grants if we need it, or getting that information to be prepared if in case we do need it. So I do know quite a few families that are impacted that we're working to try and make sure that they are covered, where their bills are paid. Something to keep in mind too is that, we had a hurricane here. So, houses were damaged.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And savings, how I think about this, and I've worked in corporate for 16 years, and the best way to think about it is you prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Well, a lot of times, a lot of those members have gone through the worst. Their houses have been damaged. Their kids have medical bills. There are certain situations that come up, and that's what they're using their savings for. And so when this happens, it's very hard to then maneuver to make sure that they're covered. And so the biggest thing I will say to all the other branches and family and friends, if you know someone, is, let them know that they're not alone, that this is unexpected. It wasn't,
As people say, you should know. That's a big thing right now. People are saying, well, they should know better and they should be prepared. I do believe that most of us are aware that this can happen. It can happen to anyone. However, when you're dealing with the different structures, I always say, like you said, corporate, the mailroom is not going to, person working in the mailroom is not making the same as the CEO. So what they have in their bank account, what they have in their savings account is not the same. And
Yeah.
you can save what you can. And,
Right.
if you're only making a certain amount and that is covering your bills, there is no savings.
Right. And so it's difficult at times, right? And so right now, I think a lot of what, in any branch, I come from a military background, right? So my family was I have many, many members of my family. Both of my parents were in the Army. So I get it. The thing to understand is that, the families especially focus on the mission at hand. And in this time, their mission is to make sure, along with protecting the borders, right, protecting the country, completing that mission, it's the family mission, making sure the family is taken care of. And a lot of the times what that means, and I'm part of that, like I am this person that I go dark, I go quiet, I literally just make sure my people are taken care of, and I'm getting the bare necessities out there to make sure my family survives this, right? So that's what I think a lot of spouses are doing, and they're not necessarily asking for help because they're not. So this is a situation where, for myself, I want to make sure that my family, my community knows that these folks, though they may not ask for it, some of them may actually need help. So, the little things that we can do, like donating food to a food pantry. And if this is resolved in a week, all that amazing food goes to other people who need it.
Other people that need it. Exactly.
Yeah, so it's not like this is just going to get tossed away or we're not remembering you. Any monetary donations that are put through Low Country CPOA or the National CPOA, the Chief Police Officer Association, is kept to ensure that other people are taken care of as well in the Coast Guard. So it's not just a right now scenario, it's looking long term.
It's for the future too.
Yeah, and a lot of
hurricane, so you're still dealing with that impact.
Yes, and I think, and remember, as many people in the branches know, it takes your savings when you get transferred. So a lot of these
PCS thing is gone.
Yes, and so you have emergency situations, or you have to transfer and use your savings to compensate for items that aren't necessarily part of the process. And I think a lot of people that aren't in the military don't necessarily know that, and so it can be a weight. And so this time for me, it's really making sure that we can help those families that need them, need the help, even if it's, groceries, because that little bit can really help them make sure they can pay a medical bill that can't get deferred. Exactly. Or, a credit card company that's not necessarily deferring it as well. Or
there are many that are not. And that's understandable. That is their right, it's their business. We're not saying anything against that. However, that does make it a little bit more challenging.
Yes, and I think a lot of the time too, Murphy comes and knocks at our door. For any spouse that knows, employment curse is a thing. Murphy's Law.
It happens in three, right? It happens in three.
It happens in terms of three. And so a lot of times what's happening is we're focusing on how to get through this, and then the three things happen. And so we have to, again, adjust. And so this is that assistance. To me, I'm doing anything in my part to help those folks make sure that they know they're not alone. I'm right there with you. What can I do to help you? I may not be to help monetarily because I'm right there with you, but let me see what I can do.
What I can help with.
Like,
we're like doing what Stacey said. What we're doing is, you said you were being the dark, and now you're being the light.
Yes, exactly.
And so thank you for coming on, because I know that this is not easy. It's not easy to talk about. We appreciate it, because the more we talk about it in a positive way and what is actually happening in your communities, the more we're able to help.
Yes. And I will say that I have, there's that saying that Mr. Rogers said, right? Always, his mom said, always find the helpers.
Yes.
And I cannot explain, I'm going to get emotional. I cannot explain the amount of love and outpouring. I have not had one person tell me no. Like, it has always been, what can I do? This is, I want to help them. And I know that it will be reciprocated. I know that when I have the opportunity, I'm going to help them.
You're going to get back. You pay it forward.
Exactly. And so, it is one of those things, and not everyone's going to see that. And so that's where I want to make sure it's known that there are people who want to help you. There are people that truly care about your well-being, because it's not about the right now always. It's about what will happen in a month or two based off the decisions that you're making right now. Exactly. So like, the things that I'm telling my family is, I can make it through my pantry. Like, I will find a way, because I have enough in my pantry, except for the bare necessities, right? Milk, bread, etc. But after that, I'm not sure. I don't know how to address it, because it's unknown, and we don't know what we're
also by doing things like this and the other interviews that have gone on, you're giving other spouses the courage and the reassurance that, hey, you know what? I can reach out and I can do a pantry where I am. And this is how I can help. Because a lot of people are wondering how they can help. And then they're scared. They don't know the right channels to go. And each one of you that have came on, and we're going to continue this. We have a lineup, still counting down the payday. It's going to happen, right? And each one has a unique story. Each one of you, your spouses do different stuff. So you have great facts, and each one of you are doing amazing things within your community. You're not asking for a handout. You have gotten stepped up, and you're making things happen.
Right.
For your community.
Right. And I think, the outside of reaching out to those local, your own local chapter of a CPOA, or if you know that there's a food pantry, to communicate that out, is please reach out to your congressman. There is a Pay Your Coast Guard Act that's out there. I know I'm making calls consistently to really make sure it's known that there needs to be some support. It's the S21 is the act number, Pay Your Coast Guard Act, or Pay Our Coast Guard Act.
Tag me within that, and then we will send that totally out everywhere.
Letters, phone calls.
That's a good one to know.
Yeah, so right now it's sitting within, there's actually two, there's one within the Congress and one within the House, so there's two actually bills through the process. And so we really want to make sure, to continue to talk about that, this isn't just the Coast Guard either. Like we have, and that's where like
a whole other area
so I'm going to only talk about the things that I know of, but I have friends that are also on the federal side that are being furloughed, that are working to make sure that they can get them taken care of as well, their community. So we're all in this together. So from me, please reach out to your congressman. I think already we've, through Sea Service Family Foundation and that campaign, it's been like 150,000 letters to Congress imploring them.
Amazing.
Yeah, so they've done an amazing job, and so I just ask to help with that. They're still in, they're not in recess. They're still talking about it. It's been out there daily. So anything you can do, if you're unable to help monetarily or through to provide any food that you might have leftovers, right, to your local unit. So I ask just use your time then instead and your voice to be able to help the Congress understand how important that act is.
Yeah. So for our viewers, again, how you can help is trying to look at one of these food pantries, which we're popping that information as soon as we get them, to donate non-perishable items. I keep saying it because American Legion, the reason why I say for them is because they're actually given a grant. It is so much better to get a grant than a loan. However, you need to do what is best for your family, and if getting a loan is what you need to do, then I'll be do that. However, the American Legion is out there. Our boss talked with them, a point of contact there, that it's a grant. So a grant equals free.
Right.
And so it's there. So if you are wanting to donate money, take it to your American Legion. It is coming to help families.
Right.
And so,
there's a many different ways. And if you're unsure, we can help provide some of that information of how to help monetarily as well. There's, I think, probably 4 different channels at least to help monetarily. So the Chief Petty Officer Association, American Legion, there's a couple other Coast Guard Mutual Assistance is another one as well. So there's a couple different options. And for those that are actually active duty or spouses in the Coast Guard, please talk with your command if you do need it. If you need assistance, they're there and they want to help you with the groups as well. So please, I'm asking because if I am that person that doesn't ask, and so now I'm at the position going, yeah, you know what? This might be a situation that I would have to be a little bit more open about what would happen.
They're being open with me.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And I've said, PM to all my co-Cs and have said, there's no shame in this. If you need anything, I mean, when you're thinking about this, your children are playing sports, and if they're in traveling, that's a bill that comes every month. That's not just they're playing rec and you pay the one-time fee.
Right.
Our children should never be affected by this.
Right.
So if there is that, then, I've said to my girlfriends, let me know. I will find a way to help.
Yeah. And I'll say that, like I said, I have not heard of one person indicating that they're not willing to help. They'll help in the capacity they're allowed to. So, or they're able to. So it's out there. It's out there.
And Stacey said yesterday, so I want to bring it back. If you're not able to help in any other way, call your girlfriend, chat with them, have a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something that you are able to help with.
Yep.
Okay. Nice cup of coffee. Oh, and today I picked this one because you're the best, Jen,
Ditto.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that she's in South Carolina. I have to say that again.
Yep.
And I'm sure Congressman is going to do whatever they have because that's what Southerners do.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
Well, thank you again for joining me, Holly, with Military Home Base. And come tomorrow back live, we will have Stacy Benson, who created the hashtag Be the Light, and we'll get to hear what's going on with her.
Awesome.
So thank you, Jennifer, very much for joining me today.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.